Super quick context for this video. This is a recording of my talk and presentation for the Devo Security Operations Center Analyst Appreciation Day. A whole day, a whole event dedicated to celebrating SOC analysts, Security Operations Center watchstanders, and all these individuals that put in the work day in and day out to protect our industry in cyber defense. So my talk and presentation is all focused on the 3CX compromise and the supply chain incident. Hey, if you have any interest in all the other sessions that were put on during that SOC Analyst Appreciation Day, there is a link in the video description where you can see all of the recordings for all of the other sessions. I believe that is jh.live/SOC. And hey, if you like stories like this and you want to hear more of them from me, look, I'll be doing another one very similar to this, except on the move it transfer exploitation. Going over the attack chain, kind of recreating the proof of concept, seeing what threats and what that means for cloud security across our industry, and maybe even peeling back the curtain on all the other recent WSFTP exploits. That I'm doing alongside Wiz and their CloudSec 360 webinar series. There is a link for that in the video description, jh.live/Wiz360. That's coming up on November 8th. Anyway, I hope you go take a look at some of the other recordings from the SOC Analyst Appreciation Day, and I hope you'll join me for November 8th with the CloudSec 360 webinar on the Move It Transfer exploitation. All the links in the video description, but please enjoy. Hi everyone, thank you so much for tuning in, and especially thank you for being a part of this SOC Analyst Appreciation Day. Now, if you don't mind, I'd love to get things started with this presentation titled SOC, or Security Operations Center Hacks, the Good, Bad, and the Ugly. Now, I just cruise through the obligatory introduction. Hi, hey, hello, my name is John Hammond. I am a huge proponent and absolutely love all this cybersecurity stuff. Digging into the blue team, digging into the red team, both offense and defense, and of course, the Security Operations Center plays a huge part in both of those. Now look, I got my feet wet in the United States Coast Guard. The Coast Guard Academy is kind of where I got my education, and then I jumped over to the Department of Defense Cyber Training Academy as a teacher and instructor there. Then I bounced over to the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, tried to spend some time on the keyboard, being an operator, doing this stuff for real, but I finally found my home here at Huntress. That is my current day job where I work as a principal security researcher. So I'm having a lot of fun with it, and it's really fulfilling work. And I'd love to tell you a little bit of a story from some of that time in the trenches, in the front lines. So with that, I might just kind of put an Uno reverse card here on this premise here. Look, let's not just get into the good, bad, and ugly. I'm just gonna kind of run that back. Let's do the ugly, bad, and the good. So here's the story. First, we're kicking it off with the ugly. Look, I'd love to tell you a little bit about the 3CX incident, the 3CX compromise, and how this all kind of got started and what our Security Operations Center was doing and how we all got into the fight. First, we had this kind of original message. This is an internal chat, right? Hey, you're looking at our Slack channel, and they say, hey, from an MSP or managed service provider buddy of mine, SentinelOne removed a pile of people's VoIP software or their voice over IP, specifically 3CX. That basically rendered their ability to make phone calls basically useless. And that was hurting not the organization, but even the MSP itself. That is a little bit of a storm here. And actually, look, I am going to be name dropping and including the vendors here. You'll note that I reference SentinelOne. Look, I don't mean for that to be any semblance of mudslinging or pointing fingers. It's just to tell the most accurate, factual, and real story that I can here. Because this is a real incident. Look, this is 6 months ago, but that's what kind of started all of us getting a little bit curious. Wanting to learn a little bit more as to, okay, why did that happen? What's going on? We took a look inside of the 3CX forums, and it looks like other folks were seeing this just as well. This is March 22nd. You can see the timestamp on that post. And this person, Brendan, says, hey, is anyone else seeing this issue with other AV vendors, antivirus solutions? They say there was some post-exploitation uncovered and maybe some evasion techniques from what looked like the 3CX desktop application. And that was just odd. Some folks would chime in and they say, hey, the same problem here, working on some workstations, but still kind of waiting on SentinelOne to let us know what's up. This definitely looks like a false positive, though. It doesn't make sense for the legitimate, the real, hey, actual product from 3CX suddenly flagged as malware. Someone says, look, I was just given the advice to kind of put an exclusion on the path. Like, hey, the 3CX application still needs to run, so hey, we'll just kind of allow list it, make sure it is enabled and good to go. Just add an exclusion so it can still go about its business and provide that voice VoIP functionality. Someone else chimes in our own internal Slack in the conversation. They say, honestly, hey, this is probably just a boo-boo, just a little bit of a flop. My guess would be something weird in the update that triggered their behavioral analysis to classify it as malware. Maybe they have some auto-delete rule or functionality configured in the AV that would just remove it. This is kind of, I don't know, a bit of the crutch of us relying maybe on some automated solutions like the machine learning, the artificial intelligence, etc. I don't know, whatever buzzwords you want to slap into it, but it's forcing the programmatic and automatic remediation done by the computer, done by software in the program. It'd be nice if we, us people, human beings, could add in that context and really know what's good, what's bad, and what's ugly, right? And that is where us, Security Operations Center analysts and researchers, really have to jump into the fight. The thing is, this didn't really get readily cleaned up. We actually saw in that 3CX thread, the forums, they say, hey, there's a support team member, the staff that said, look, if you're using Sentinel-1 and you're having an issue, you should probably contact them directly. 3CX support, hey, we can't really offer you anything else right now. You would have to go check in with S1. And there were a couple questions on that, but they did their best to respond. Look, there are hundreds, if not thousands of AV solutions out there, and we can't always just kind of gauge and sanity check what they decide to do. Maybe they just, I don't know, are having that issue, having a flop, a little whoopsie boo-boo, and they're accidentally blocking some of the functionality. We don't have control over that third-party antivirus solution or EDR, XDR, blah, blah, blah. This was odd, but an understandable truth, right? Like, hey, you can't know exactly what everyone's up to, but suddenly it wasn't just Sentinel-1. We saw a couple other posts that come out of the woodwork at the 3CX forums. Looks like CrowdStrike was chiming in about this. About half an hour ago, one of the end users received an alert that was saying the 3CX desktop was been attempting to communicate with a highly suspicious domain, likely to be actor controlled. Kind of just checking in, hey, what's going on? Someone else says, I got this as well. Someone says, look, Sentinel-1 picked this up a few days ago. That was on the 22nd, right, when we saw that original post. This is on the 29th, which might be a worthwhile and interesting tidbit as we explore this later on. This individual just thought, hey, it's a false positive. Nothing to worry about. Little bit of confusion, though, because this keeps on happening. A lot of folks chiming in, coming out of the woodwork to say, look, there's another alert. This 3CX desktop app keeps harping on us. ESET mentions the same thing, but if you actually dig into VirusTotal, nothing detects this as malware. One of the users, hey, dropped the link, added a couple screenshots. They say S1, Sentinel-1 is now saying it's undetected. But actually, if you dig into that VirusTotal page, it was a false positive, looked like. Maybe they marked it, detected it first, and then added a comment to say, look, we verified, validated. This is in fact a false positive. But later on, CrowdStrike comes in and says, hang on, this might be a true positive. And this is where the confusion and uncertainty keeps kicking in. More and more posts, more and more, hey, communication from other community members. I don't know what's going on. Is this a false positive? Is this a true positive? Can we get some communication? Can we get an official statement? Can we get word? Just notice. Is this what it is, or is it something entirely different? Back to our internal Slack chatter, someone said, hey, I'm seeing all this forums communication, but also tracking this new Reddit post. Looks like this was posted just moments ago, maybe 30 minutes ago, when we get to see this Reddit thread. Maybe this is a new development. And hey, we start tagging some of the researchers, myself included, and we start to think we should do some rapid response on this. We should probably dig into this and see what's going on. Rapid response is that sort of internal process where we try to get all hands on deck, or as many folks as we can, into the action on this so we can really uncover what's happening and we can bring the best output, info, and tactical details to the community. This is that Reddit post. And this is CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike was the first to kind of, hey, sound the alarm, bring this to the front light here, and they say situational awareness, CrowdStrike is tracking an active intrusion campaign targeting 3CX customers. On March 29th, we observed unexpected malicious activity emanating from a legitimate signed binary 3CX desktop, the softphone application from 3CX. The malicious activity includes beaconing to actor-controlled infrastructure, deployment of second-stage payloads, and in small number of cases, hands-on keyboard activity, where the threat actor goes interactive and starts to, on their own, like hand jamming on the keyboard, make a mess, wreak havoc, whatever they might do. Now we start to chat about this internally. CrowdStrike is tracking this 3CX compromise as a backdoor via an APT, or advanced persistent threat. And we start to do our own homework, hey, dig into the telemetry and data that we have, and we can see just in the last 24 hours, like in the past day, there are almost 1,000 organizations, like, hey, businesses that may be a managed service provider or the downstream small mid-market businesses across 427 accounts, almost half of 1,000. And with that, it was made pretty clear, March 30th, we've got some folks really kind of laying the flag in the ground here. Absolutely 1,000%, the 3CX desktop app has been compromised. And this is just a user. This is just, hey, one of the end users on the forum, and they express there's malicious activity emanating from a legitimate signed binary 3CX desktop app. More banter on our side. It looks like there is widespread exploitation that we're hearing from other vendors, other folks playing in the pool here, but there's limited interactive activity. Seems like the threat actor wants to grab as much access as possible and then filter down to whatever targets they might be interested for later post-exploitation. And now we want to alert the SOC, right? Hey, we should get everyone in the know on this, our security operations center and analysts. Hey, if you see anything weird related to 3CX, whether it's files or software, don't assume that this is a false positive. There could be a huge storm coming. And with that, we're getting into the bad. It's confirmed. Like, we know that there is some active exploitation. There's a storm brewing and there's an incident that is unfolding. The 3CX phone, 3CX desktop application is being compromised by legitimate updates, like really sent from 3CX themselves, that are Trojanized and backdoored. And the problem is, like, if we take a look on Shodan, that's about almost 250,000 3CX phone systems just available on the open internet, like publicly exposed. This is the data and the telemetry that anyone can see out on the internet. In the United States alone, that is 50,000 endpoints, and there is a whole lot that could be potentially impacted. And the forums are still just as confused. Hey, we're trying to get details. We're trying to have some communication. Is there a known version of this app that's compromised? Hey, maybe we're in a variable, hey, different usual setup than what folks normally run for 3CX. Or can anyone answer, hey, is this the Windows native app or something that's installed via the browser? What about the Mac installation? What about any other rendition of the software? Just kind of scratching our head, what is going on? Now, back internal Slack, we're starting our rapid response process. We're trying to suit up, hey, get into the action here and really start to dig into this. I fire up some Slack huddle, like a Zoom call, the war room, to get all the remote folks together, and we're gonna hard charge on this. But someone says, hey, who's gonna take lead on this rapid response initiative? And whoops, hey, I guess I started the Slack huddle, so great, I'm the lead. And, memes and GIFs, and we start to have a little bit of fun with this. Let's see how we do when we start to chase this threat. Now, first things first, we really need to understand the attack surface, right? We need to know who is susceptible, what versions are impacted, what has already been compromised. And look, we could check out on Shodan as we've done across the open internet, but look, we want to be digging into our partners. Hey, the Security Operations Center, the SOC, look, we got to be providing security for the people and the organizations and the businesses that we provide those SOC services for. So we put together this Google sheet of, look, these are all of the affected hosts, organizations, accounts, endpoints, and the versions of the 3CX desktop app that we're privy to. And I note that, look, this is a listing of all of the endpoints, all the hosts that have a startup functionality, like a service running for the 3CX desktop app. And in our user base, that's like 8,000 hosts. So there's a lot to do. With that, we start to get to work. We start to do some of the analysis. Hey, maybe some root cause analysis, trying to dig into what the vulnerability might be, what these samples and versions of the 3CX desktop app could be made up of. What is the source code? What's happening here and where? Is there truly malware? In what way, shape, or form? And then can we start to do some more of the preventative measures? Hey, are there maybe things that we could add on the file system or configure or tweak so that this isn't going to be a bigger problem later down the road? Can we identify actual impact and exploitation here? Can we write any detections or do some detection engineering so that we can better arm and alert our SOC analysts and folks that are digging into this? And of course, what can we give the SOC analysts in the first place so that we can make sure we're getting the right information out? This is when we start to see some really cool stuff happen, though, because look, digging into the SOC, the Security Operations Center, these might be some of those SOC hacks where, look, this is where we start to see the norming, storming, forming, whatever folks say to get into this in a team effort. They say, hey, we are going to be digging into this. Are we isolating machines as we find potential compromises? What if there are some processes still running? Can we get the notifications, the mass communication out and about? And folks are asking questions like, hey, what are we doing here, where, and there? Hey, what is the approach that we're taking for these different vulnerable versions? That is the team dynamic, and maybe not such a bad thing, but hey, starting to sow the ground for good things, the great work that we're doing together to fight back against this thing. But we have to be kind of walking a tightrope here, because bear in mind, look, 3CX is a phone system, and that could basically count as, like, I don't know, some critical services, some real functionality, operational capability that has to remain intact for a business and an organization to keep running smoothly. Like, this could be a big deal, because if we started to block those processes, stop some of the activity, or even like isolate, quarantine different machines, they will lose access to their phone systems. Businesses, organizations, they won't be able to make or receive phone calls, just like we saw. So we have to make the judgment call. Look, when we send out our reports and our notifications, we absolutely need to be doing this as fast as possible, the best that we can, help folks get alerted and in the know on all this, but we shouldn't be isolating. That's something that, I don't know, we just have to bear in mind we can't, because it'll bring down their phone system, and that's some of that operational capability, look, we can't afford to mess with. Now, all along the way, suddenly, I actually received an email from 3CX, like from, hey, personnel people over at 3CX. And they say, hey, John, we wanted to reach out to you on Twitter, but we couldn't contact you privately. Can we actually just kind of touch base over email? And I say, absolutely, without a doubt. Look, I'm happy to help. We want to be in this work together here, and we're tracking some of the chatter surrounding this. These are still early days, right? This is March 29th, not so much the 30th or some of the days when we reach the weekend as we start to kind of work through this the best we can. And they say to me, look, we're really interested in all this, but we haven't seen any cases of actually compromised instances. We're not aware of any beaconing malware or malicious traffic. And that was a bit odd to me. So I tried to, hey, lay all the cards on the table, let them know, look, this is what we're tracking. This is what we see. We can see installed updates actually beaconing out to other external resources, those different domains and URLs you might have caught wind of, but they didn't seem to be tracking this. Do you have any samples of the update in question or the compromised DLL? And at that point, I was just still running, right? Hey, we're still in the trenches. We're still trying to fight fires here. And I just went back to doing what I could to help with the rapid response initiative. As it turns out, though, back on the 3CX forums, March 30th, as we're kind of tuning back into this, Nick, CEO over at 3CX, says, look, rumors are true. Hey, there is a compromise. There is an incident that's unfolding. Please uninstall the 3CX client. We're going to be doing our best to get up to speed on all this. We'll have a new agent up in the few hours available, but we're going to have to go with the flow on this and see what we can do for more of that root cause analysis. And with that, the news comes into the limelight. The article, the blog post, the write-up is released. There is a security alert for the 3CX desktop application, where they go out and they say, we regret to inform you, our partners and customers, the Electron app in this new update number 7, version numbers here and there, it does have this security issue, and antivirus vendors are flagging the executable as malware. Now, all is acknowledged. Hey, patches are on their way, and the whole industry is starting to work together. As we saw, everyone jumping into this. What, Total, CrowdStrike, SentinelOne, CISA, of course, CISA, government, everyone is trying to get up the ante and see how can we respond to this. And this is where the great stuff kicks in. I was telling you about all that teamwork and the SOC analysts working together saying, look, we're sending our reports, we're notifying partners, we're making phone calls. And now, hey, what can we do about some folks that are still digging into this? Well, hey, most of our partners, everyone's acknowledging, hey, we all are aware of this and we're doing what we can to do the due diligence and work through this. And an interesting tidbit, right? That open communication channel that we had with 3CX, hey, they were reaching out. We were kind of going back and forth on email. They come back and they say, look, now that we've got some of this messaging out and about and we are clear on this, obviously, look, we've all had some busy days here and we're going to be working through the weekend, doing what we need to do to make sure this is cleaned up. I was wondering, hey, how can we help each other? I was wondering if there's anything we could dig into. Can we do some more of that root cause analysis? And can we uncover all of the puzzle pieces here? And this, to me, is the high note. These are the best parts. This is when we can celebrate. Look, it's everyone kind of coming together to do great work, even in the midst of all of the uncertainty to start with and the bad news and the grind that we're going to have to be working through here. Because it is a team effort. It is everyone playing in concert. It's SOC analysts, security operations center folks, detection engineers, blue teamers, defenders, all of us saying, look, we want to do the research on this. We want to do our analysis, and then we want to go fight back the best way that we can. It's so cool to see, hey, everyone chiming in, whether it's just making a Google folder for us to store and stash info and get some details together, whether it's breaking down all of the attack surface, knowing what we're going to be needing to dig into, where, when, and how. And of course, outreach to the people that are affected and cutting up the binaries. Hey, doing some of the reverse engineering, trying to understand that malware analysis, finding the command and control servers and how this new malicious update and nefarious activity keeps doing what it's doing. This is what I want to drive home. And look, I know this whole slide is a wall of text. I'm not expecting you, and I don't even want you to read all this, but I do want you to see all that working together. And that's great to see it in harmony. That's some of the coolest stuff that you get to dig into as part of the Security Operations Center. That's it. That's that heartbeat. That's that pulse. And that is what we do for cybersecurity. Now, here we come to the close of the story, right? Hey, we're trying to get the information out and about. And the best way that we can do that is to share our messaging, whether it's a blog, whether it's an article, write up, or whatever. Look, we're trying to pull this all together. And I don't want to drag you through all of this because I know it gets into the nerdy, hey, nitty gritty, technical details in the weeds and all that jargon. But I do think it's some really cool stuff. And this is part of like the byproduct of the great work that you do here. Look, if folks wanted to dig into it, I wanted to throw just a teaser up on the screen, but you can start to understand maybe some of that living off the land tradecraft, some of the shady, nefarious stuff that hackers and threat actors really do. And I gotta be honest, like they attributed this to APT, Advanced Persistent Threat. So a serious incident with some neato malware. And actually, look, I will give you this flow chart at the very least to tell you how this all went down because it's kind of a simple premise. The 3CX compromise as we got to see it and as all of you, maybe, Security Operations Center analysts were cutting through it. Look, the desktop application downloaded updates, but those updates were malicious. They were backdoored and Trojanized updates that would hide in normally like libraries or DLLs, just specific files that would try to be blending in with normal, hey, legitimate and actual trusted software. But it ultimately retrieves other secondary payloads or other malware that it might then execute or run or invoke. It'll try to unravel itself, whether it's decrypting components in memory, and ultimately sleep, like wait, like lurk in the shadows and set up a timer so that we don't immediately go fire the payload, hey, detonate and make all the damage that we want, but it waits for 7 days until it finally reaches out to GitHub. GitHub of all places, probably one of those, hey, trusted sites, things that oftentimes developers and engineers are going to need. So it's probably allowed in your network or firewall, whatever. And then it tries to pull all of these image files down. But inside of those image files are more malware, more stages and payloads that'll detonate and run. But inside of those icon files is more malware or more instructions as to how it can communicate with the command and control server, the C2 server and the instance waiting to give it new marching orders as to what to do next on all of these compromised instances that are seriously pushed downstream by these 3CX updates. Now, what's kind of peculiar here is that this is using GitHub, staging all this inside of a public, like internet-based GitHub repository. So look, maybe something we could do is try to take down not just those domains, those websites that, hey, the malware would reach out to, but even the source of truth for that, the GitHub repository itself. I tried to send a, hey, abuse complaint and maybe at least report this repository. I was able to get a response from GitHub, and that was a really, really cool thing to see. Look, that was taken down. And maybe, I don't know, there's no really way to tell. Did that affect the attack chain? I don't know. Could have it saved some organizations that maybe were yet to receive the update? Or have I poked the bear? Did I maybe just wrestle with the bee's nest and now they're going to send new updates if they still compromise the supply chain? Kind of an interesting thing, very, very weird tidbit. it, but worth noting, and it's worth thinking of those things that you can do to disrupt some adversary tradecraft. And on top of that, some of the coolest stuff that came from this incident, I know it's weird trying to find a silver lining in this mass supply chain incident, but hey, it's the community. It's everyone playing in concert. It's the team effort of vendors, sure, security providers, hey, practitioners, researchers, analysts, you all, everyone. Silas, one of the other security researchers, was thinking, you know what? What if we put together a website or some portal or something that would actually kind of track whether or not your IP address was known as one of the compromised hosts? And that way you could just visit this website, go to checkmyoperator.com and see if you were potentially impacted. That's so cool. And of course, getting the information knowledge out there, this wasn't something that just affected Windows. It of course still affects Macs, those things in the Apple ecosystem. This is Thomas, another great, hey, community individual sharing incredible, fantastic cyber threat intelligence. He was giving credit where credit is due. Big ups to Patrick Wardle and Objective-C and everyone else trying to dig into the malware and understand how the supply chain attack even happened in the Mac realm. And hey, at the end of the day, maybe it's a weird perspective to have. I know, like, hey, some big compromise, this big supply chain threat, this big incident, throwing some software into the limelight. But that does mean that, you know, we're just going to get better. That just means that we're going to patch stuff up. That means we're going to improve our software. That means we're going to add new defenses, set up better security mechanisms. I don't want to make this some big doom and gloom, hey, the sky is falling thing at this supply chain attack and threats and malware. But I do want to say, look, these are just rallying cries. This should be inspiration and motivation for us to get better at this whole cybersecurity thing, at this whole defense work, at this security operations center, all the operations that we can do together. And sometimes that means, look, we have to be working together to fix things before they're taken advantage of by threat actors and adversaries. And here's the last tidbit. Look, I feel like maybe I tried to speed run and streamline us right through the long nights, the hardcore, hey, energy drinks, hey, pizza, I don't know, whatever you can do to keep yourself fueled to work through the evening, to kind of keep cruising over the weekend. Sometimes it's hard work doing what we all do, but at the end of the day, it's a great feeling when we spin something down. Hey, maybe we're all wrapped up with this rapid response initiative, or we've kind of done the best we could to get things patched, to, hey, go hunt for more issues or vulnerabilities and clean things up the best we can and notify folks maybe they're impacted and how we can help. When it comes time for it and you feel like you're ready to disengage, and we just move on to the next thing because there's going to be something else. But when we can knock it out of the park in the moment and feel really great and confident, look, that was all of us working together to make a real difference and to move the needle. We're going to knock it out of the park for the next one. And that's what I want to harp on. Your work matters so much. If you're a security operations center analyst, look, what you can bring to the table, even when stuff feels like it's hitting the fan, we bring to light internal teamwork, that collaboration, that camaraderie, everyone working together, asking questions and learning how we can do this the right way, the best that we can, and building relationships. Hey, working with other folks in the industry, starting to network, trying to see who else is chasing this same thing and asking them questions and learning from them, all of us learning from each other. That is the best networking we can do. Not just the technical, hey, IPv4, IPv6 nonsense. No, it's people. And we're building those relationships together. Industry collaboration, of course, private and public sector, getting out the information with awareness and messaging, tactical threat intelligence, showing everything that we can so that we can help organizations. And at the end of all that, look, superb work and fulfillment. It's hard work, we all know, but hey, it feels so good when you're at the light at the end of the tunnel and you really achieve something. You really accomplish this difference that we can make in the industry from you, all of us protecting the industry, from protecting the whole cybersecurity landscape. That takes you. Security Operations Center analysts, all of us. And I don't want you to forget that. I don't want you to forget that value and that meaning that you literally every single day are protecting the whole landscape. You are making the security world, the whole realm of cybersecurity safer and more secure, but the work that you do And with that, we appreciate you Security Operations Center analysts in the SOC Analyst Appreciation Day. And with that, I am all done rambling, but hey, I hope you enjoyed maybe that trip down memory lane, little blast from the past if you were working during those 3CX days, or you just thought, hey, maybe that's another story of really a great testament as to why we do what we do. And thank you for it. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for all the incredible work that you do. And if you would like to read more about, hey, kind of how we were digging into things during that 3CX incident, we have our blog right up, the forums post where you got to see that unfold in real time. And of course, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. There's a QR code to contact me. And I know, right? Hey, QR codes. Oh, is that a security concern? Look, it's your own threat model. It's your own risk assessment. But thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. And thank you so much for being here for the SOC Analyst Appreciation Day.